so I stopped being lazy. Yeah, and I became creative. And I learned how to create it. And now that pride's for me. So come see. Oh, come eat.
And I believe another positive we want to take from this game is that the offense, while they scored 17 points this game. Welcome back to the Silver Lining. I am your host, Sterlington. We're going to go ahead and review over the Falcons Chiefs on Week 3 of the NFL season. One of them games make me say rats because the Falcons, they didn't get run off the field, but we saw that it was a very winnable game. We just didn't go out and win it. I think I predicted the score to be 24-23, and the Chiefs missed their extra point, and we failed to score our last touchdown. That would have made it exactly that score. It made me look like a prophet. I guess they didn't want me looking too good, but also this was just one of those games that the Falcons can build off of, and also show where they have a lot of room for improvement. We're starting to get to that point of the year where we have a big enough sample size to know where the team is weak and where they need to be stronger at. As far as the pass rush, still not seeing any pass rush. Not really. As far as run defense, we were okay against the Steelers, but we got ran over by the Eagles. The Chiefs, they kind of ran over us too. They didn't run for a huge yardage or a huge yard per carry, but they got first downs when they needed them. They got rush yards when they needed them, really. Like, even if it was first down and they get 6 on the first play, well, now you got 2 plays to get 4 yards with Patrick Mahomes as a QB. So that's really the situations that benefit the Chiefs that we gotta be better at when we talk about defense. On offense, we couldn't convert on 3rd down and 4th downs. We went 1 for 3 on 4th downs, 2 for 9 on 3rd downs. And basically that almost contributed directly into the opposite problem of the Chiefs just milking the hell out of the clock. The Chiefs really came into this game with the idea that they were going to slow the game down. I think they were probably concerned about their issues out at tackle. And when we were talking about, when I had Cam on, and we talked about, how you want to attack this Falcons team, that's what you really want to do as far as, just making sure you stay ahead on the sticks and not put in the obvious passing situation. That way, the already lack of a pass rush, now they're trying to get pass rush on 30 mediums and 3rd and shorts. Good luck with that. You can't even really get pass rush on 3rd and long. But if it's 3rd and long, at least the secondary can be a little more involved, and that's probably the strength of the team. As far as the offense, the inability to convert led to our offense. Even though I think we had 10 drives and they had 10 drives, but they kept the ball for like 35 minutes and we had it for like 26, 25, something like that. They just had the ball for so much longer than the Falcons that the Falcons had to be very efficient to stay in and win this game. And on the last couple of drives, the Falcons stumbled a little bit. So what's the things I'm seeing from that game? We ran the ball we ran the ball horribly. I mean, good Lord! Like every time they went to turn around and hand the ball off, it was time to turn the TV off. Bijan, I think he averaged less than 2 yards a carry. Tyler Algier, his yards per carry were pretty decent, but it was hard for him to find sledding or any good movement. Now, what I will say is on that 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 sequence that the game ended on, I was watching it again. And Tyler Algier did get pretty close on the second effort. I think maybe they improperly spotted the ball a little bit. But I think maybe we could have just gave it back to Algier and tried it again. I think something in the game, I started to record earlier, and then I felt like the stuff I was saying and it was off. So I went and rewatched some of the parts of the game I was able to rewatch. We ran the play that we got stuffed on 4th down. We ran that same play on the touchdown that Bijan got. But when you watch that play, because I'm hearing a lot of people say that Algier missed the block. If he blocked Nick Bolton, it looks like, Bijan's going to the house. But on the touchdown run, Tyler Algier went to the outside. He went right around the corner, just like he did on that same play. And just like on that play, he had Nick Bolton in the hole. It's just that time he was able to get the yard he needed to score. And this time Nick Bolton fired and got him in the backfield. And even on the touchdown run, Bijan kind of had to beat two guys to get that touchdown. And that makes the play call look a little worse in my eyes. Now, what I originally thought was, I was like, hey man, I was texting Cam. I said, hey, man, maybe we should have passed that ball on that play. I wish we would have, just because Dahlman went down. McGarry, he went down too, and it was like, well, the best side of your running of the best side that you run the ball on is going to be McGarry, Lindstrom, and Dahlman's side, and two of those three are missing. So maybe you want to go with pass more. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, no, I don't really have a problem with running, but I think that play looks a little better if you have some sort of play action to it, and not play action pass, a play action. So like something just to draw the defense with a motion or something. Like maybe if you have a jet sweep, just get the defense looking that way, or maybe have like a fake dive. Instead of having Algier lead as a fullback, you have Algier run inside as a fake dive just to draw everybody in, and then flip it out to Bijan and then let him go ahead and do that, because excuse me, with the way it ends up being blocked. Now maybe Algier went the wrong way on both of those plays, but the way it ends up being blocked, Bijan gonna have to be the guy anyway. So if Bijan gonna have to be the guy anyway, why not suck the linebackers in, suck the safeties in with the dive motion, and then flip it out to Bijan, and then somebody got to try to respect that dive motion and also catch Bijan out on the perimeter. I think maybe if they add something like that little wrinkle to that play, then they might be able to score on that. I think in the passing game, one of the things I am getting a little irked about is I don't feel like we featuring Pitts enough. He had the huge play, and I feel like that's really the only real featured play Pitts has had since Zach Robinson's been calling the plays. Pitts can be explosive. Pitts can definitely be explosive against the matchups he's going to get in this offense. If he's going to be a tight end and not playing as a slot or playing as a receiver, he's getting covered by linebackers and safeties most of these times. Let's go ahead and exploit it. They cannot keep up with Kyle. Kyle is too fast. Kyle is also 6'6" with long arms. Even when he's kind of covered, he's kind of not. And he's also a little bit better after the catch than I had ever thought he was. I honestly could say the same for Drake London. And so that brings up a little more questions for me about all those screens we ran to Mooney. Because I'm like, we run into Mooney. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with it all the way. But I'm just saying, use your guys, man. I don't have a problem with the ball being spread around. The ball in the best offenses, the ball gets spread around to a bunch of different guys. But when you spread the ball around to a bunch of different guys, it's on like good play calls where they have the advantage. So like, yeah, you're gonna go ahead and throw the ball to Ray McLeod and Darnell Mooney. With their matchup, it's easily exploitable. But like when you're throwing screens to those guys, it's like, what? Those ain't the best players on the team. If you're going to just throw a pass and say, hey, beat your guy, well, then use your best guys to do that. That's going to be Drake London, and that's going to be Kyle Pitts. And if you're watching, over the last couple of weeks, I kind of been seeing that Drake London got a little bit more rack than I thought. He got a little more run after catch ability than I originally thought. I remember thinking Drake is more of a possession receiver. He's not a deep threat in terms of speed, But he is kind of a deep threat in terms of the fact that he can get down the field, and if you throw it and you throw it to the right side of his body, he's able to twist his body to make those plays, and he's also able to win plays with contested catches. But also, what I'm starting to see is he's really quick in the early stages of him having the ball, right? So he's not going to catch a short pass and make a house call, but he is going to catch a short pass and he's going to be able to make a guy miss, and he's going to break another tackle and be able to get a first down on a lot of plays. He is who do I think about when I think about it kind of like with Puka Nakua. One of the things he kind of was good at was catching the ball and then just good at finding the zone or the void where the defenders are, or where just slipping a tackle or something like that. And Drake really has that ability, and I don't think we are taking full advantage of it. If we're gonna call the plays like that, right? If we're gonna call these screens and have screens for Ray McLeod and have screens for Darnell Mooney, I want to see a screen like that with Drake and let him get a chance, because he's a big body guy. He can already break a tackle. He can make a couple guys miss. When you have a screen like that and you got guys blocking guys, but also the guy who has the ball can, create his own or on his own and make a guy miss, that makes those plays that much more valuable. I think I already said this, but man, we ran the damn ball awfully. But I think we might wanted to lean on play action a little bit more too. Sometimes when you run, you don't always have to run the ball successfully. I think the biggest thing now, and I didn't get a chance to look at it, but the main thing is you can't run the ball poorly against 7 in the box. Now that's where you get in trouble. When you start running the ball poorly against them not trying to stop the run. But when these teams are like loading the box and they trying to stop the run, you do not need to be as effective running the ball. You can go ahead and start hitting them with some play action and like really punishing them for it. And that's why I wanted to see more Pitts. I'm pretty sure I pointed it out on the last podcast. They had given up huge yards to Mike Gesicki against the Bengals, and they gave up huge yards against Isaiah Likely. Those guys have been quiet this year. Those not the Kyle Pitts guys. Those are guys who've been quiet all year, and they go and play the Chiefs and have career games. And Kyle Pitts didn't, and it didn't look like it was a focus that he did. I need Zach to stop running his offense and start running the offense that's best for his personnel. That's pretty much my main thing. I mean, like I said, I would like to see us run the ball better, but when Dahlman and McGarry went down, that was going to be a tough ask. The Chiefs saw how we ran the ball against the Eagles. They made that a POE, point of emphasis, to stop that and to make sure that that wasn't the case. But when they are stopping it and when they are committing extra bodies to stopping it, that's when your offensive coordinator got to look and see what they're doing to stop it and say, hey, how are we about to go ahead and attack the looks that they're giving us to stop one of the things that we want to do, right? Because once you start attacking them with that play action, then you can go ahead and start being able to run the ball a little more, just because they're respecting it and they're fearful of it. The protection was okay. It was still decent, even with McGarry and Dahlman out. And that's good. That's really all you can ask for when you got backups in. And this is where that depth matters. Now, I saw that we picked up Elijah Wilkinson and Matt Hennessy. That's good, because when you start lacking that depth, this is where it starts getting scary, because it's like, all right, now, we got our 2 best backups in, but like, what happens if Jake gets hurt? Or what happens if Bergeron gets hurt? Or what happens if Lindstrom get hurt? Now you down. You starting to be down all of your good offensive linemen and your linchpin guys. So we don't want to be in that position. But yeah, they held up well in pass protection. I still think that the biggest issue with the offense right now is we just need a little more growth out of Zach Robinson with regards to being intentional in creation of explosive plays, who he wants to target on these explosive plays. who he wants to try to create explosive plays out of short plays with. I think if he can start figuring out those parts a little more, then he'll be okay. But I'll be a little fair with him. You know, he caught the Steelers in week 1. Obviously, that shotgun and pistol shit the whole time. You know, we definitely helped them. But the Steelers, they looking like brawl beaters right now. With the Chiefs, we know about Steve Spagnuolo, even though they've given up points. The guy knows how to coordinate a championship defense. We know because he did it like 3 times already. My man's just he couldn't get it together as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, the man is gifted. And he doesn't even have to have the most loaded guys to do it. And honestly, on the 4th and 5 from the goal line, which by the way, before I get into what I saw them do, that was the right decision. All right, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I know people saying, hey, if you kick the field goal, there, and then you get to stop and kick another field goal, you win. I'm big on doing that. So some people say, hey, you can't do that, da da da. I disagree. You can. But I think how you got to look at it is you got to look at, all right, if they kick the field goal, how is that going to affect not just the scoreboard, but the decision making of the other team? I'll get into this in the next episode when I talk about the Falcons' upcoming matchup with the Saints. But when they played the Eagles, there's times where I'm irked. Really badly by Doug Peterson's. Doug Peterson. Well, what year is it? I'm getting irked by Nick Sirianni insistence on going for it on 4th downs in what I believe are extremely unnecessary situations. I think going for it on 4th downs and going for 2s is more of a late game thing. Maybe I'm just old school. I know they say analytics say this and that and the third, whatever. Man, get that shit out of here. All right, I don't know. Sometimes the biggest thing you can do in football is just not beat yourself, right? Sometimes you need to kick the damn field goal and take the points because points is hard to score, right? If you just have getting points like that, all right, fine. It would make sense to keep putting pressure on the team if you've been able to score on them all day, to then go for it on 4th down and go for the 2-point conversion because they already haven't been able to stop you. But when you in a game where you find them points hard to come by, like the Eagles did, and you keep going for it on these 4th downs and looking all these points in the face, that shit starts to annoy me. In this situation, I didn't feel like that was the case. They went for it on 4th down with 4 minutes left. I can think of a million incidents where 4 minutes is about that threshold where it starts just getting, that's not enough time. That's just not enough time. So they did end up getting the stop. They not only got a stop, they got a stop without using their timeouts. So that was the huge part. But when we started talking about, okay, they could have kicked the field goal, got to stop and kick another field goal. Let me tell you what's going to happen, right? When they are up by 2 instead of up by 5, they're not throwing that ball that they threw to Xavier Worthy that stops the clock, right? They're gonna do everything they can to start bleeding the clock and trying to get that first down because one first down wins the game. See, when you have that, when you go for that 4th down and don't get it, they're making decisions based around the fact that you still need a touchdown to score, and then they might be being a little more aggressive. Then when you get that stop, now you're getting that stop. You got 2.5 minutes left with 3 timeouts and a 2-minute warning. That's like, an ideal situation. And honestly, you can say, hey, they should have kicked 3, whatever. But really, they should have scored. That's what really should have happened. They got in the red zone, and they got in the red zone both times. And that's another, plus I'll point out. In the second week in a row where we saw that when the game was on the line, they were able to move the ball. So they're able to move the ball in these clutch situations. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to finish or not. On that 3rd and 5, my man's out there decided to play, he decided he was going to do some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu moves on Kyle Pitts in the end zone. Referee just was like, hey, man, I don't want to get involved. And I'm like, all right, man, ref. Well, let's see how you F this one up because that one, That one was huge. And then back to what I was talking about with Spagnola, a habit that I see that he has, and this is one of those things that maybe if we ended up playing the Chiefs the way down the line, in the hypothetical Super Bowl, that we got to recognize as a tendency for him is that he loves to try to send pressure on those late down situations, just to have to make you make an immediate decision. So if they have their guys playing tight coverage and they rushing a bunch of guys at the quarterback. Now, if you pick it up, you'll be able to get something. But if you have a free rusher coming to the quarterback and he's not mobile and the guys are playing real tight physical coverage, so it's throwing off the timing of these plays, that's the result you end up getting there. But when you go, like I said, you got to go for it on fourth down. I've been hearing people point out that game, the Falcons, I think it was 2015 against the 49ers. But I think another example of that was in 2016 when the Falcons had hosted the Chiefs. And the Falcons, like the Chiefs just kept coming up with these weird fucking ways to keep the game. They couldn't score. No, there's no way they was going to score with us. They knew they couldn't. So they had a fake punt that went for a touchdown. Eric Berry had a pick six that went for a touchdown. So they scored 14 points if you count the extra points, without having the scoring from the offense. And the Falcons were down 27-22. So the Falcons had 22, Chiefs had 27. Falcons scored a touchdown to go up 28-27. Matt Ryan threw a pick two to Eric Berry. They went up 29-28. Chiefs got the ball back. Despite having a far inferior offense to the one they had now, they were able to get a couple first downs, run the ball out without us even getting the ball back in our home stadium against the Chiefs, against Andy Reid. So I think you do have to be aggressive. And maybe that's what affected Raheem's thinking too. He might have, Raheem was on the staff when we had that loss against the 49ers, the Chiefs. And he was there. He remembers that. So he might think, hey, we got to be aggressive. And when we're being aggressive, and I guess it's time to go ahead and talk about the defense, because they did get the stop when we needed it. Now the defense, they have a lot of flaws right now. Second week in a row, they've been getting run over. And third week in a row, like more so second, they got a couple sacks the game against the Steelers, but third week in a row, not getting any pass rush really. This game, slot corner D. Alford, he kind of took a beating. He had a rough game. Now the second touchdown, the one Juju Smith-Schuster caught, I don't really know who that's on. That looked like a play design to kind of mix the coverage up. They did that like double crosser thing. So Jesse Bates was covering Smith-Schuster, and then another guy come across, and then they decided to go with a switch. I don't know if they should have switched it, but maybe they should. But I feel like having two guys crashing hard in opposite directions and then say, all right, this guy's running full speed across. You go ahead and pick him up now, D. I don't know if I like that. Rashee Rice also had a ton of yards. He didn't have a huge yard per catch average though. So I mean, if that's just who they focusing on, Kelsey didn't really do anything. Xavier Worthy had a couple plays, but nothing really of note. Then sometimes that's just what it's going to be. But for all of the faults that they had, they pretty much kept the Chiefs' offense in control. They gave up 22 points, which isn't nothing to scream about or beat your chest about. But you do have to remember that 3 of those points came off of a turnover by Kirk. It was, the pick where he got hit and it was a pick already in the end zone. They got to stop there. They blanked the Chiefs in the fourth quarter, and they got you the ball back in a crunch time situation, a situation where basically the Chiefs were out to win the game. Because that's how I look at fourth downs. That's how I look at the other team getting the ball back with a chance to run the clock out. Now, it's a little different than if they are in a deficit where they get all 4 downs to work and they gotta have a score to win or the game's over. But they trying to put the game away, and the defense was able to stop them. and get the ball back. And that's good stuff right there. So defense, I'm not going to beat on them too hard, but I will admit that I got a lot of concerns about that pass rush, man. Especially because that's the pass rush. Well, it's that we're not even getting pressure really. Like, we're not getting sacks, but the other quarterback is always being harassed and having to move around in the pocket. That's fine, but the quarterback's getting their fast shake of having a chance to throw the ball, and also because we're giving up all those rushing yards. The Chiefs able to hold the ball for 35 minutes to 25 for us, and they're able to limit our offense and our opportunities. You know what I'm saying? And we got to go ahead and stop the run game for these teams just so that our offense can get more chance. They still heating up. Zach still is getting reps. Kirk is still heating up. I still do not believe Kirk is all the way back yet. His mobility is still pretty shy. But the other thing too is the tackling. The tackling was pretty mediocre this game. Now maybe that's because they still getting used to playing regular season games as opposed to not doing anything, basically going from cold or going from just practicing to taking guys down in a game. But the tackling needs to improve. And honestly, if the tackling improves, and this is one of those games where if we just have better tackling, we might even win the game. Because there's a couple plays where the Chiefs were able to break some tackles and extend some drives, and then those drives led to points. So that's probably going to be one of the main things going forward. But yeah, let's talk about the good things we saw, right? We're gonna call it a silver lining. We're gonna keep this thing positive, right? So the Kirk looked better. Kirk looked better. We got an explosive play. Now, last week we got an explosive play with Darnell Mooney, but this one looked a little more intentional. Kyle Pitts almost finished it out with a touchdown, but there looked like there was the intention to take a shot downfield. So maybe seeing that is going to inspire Zach. I think Zach going to see that. He's going to see how bad he beat that matchup, and he's going to be like, all right, maybe I can start drawing more plays up to get Pitts involved and not be focused on having those 3 receiver sets like he might have been doing in Los Angeles, where that might have been what he was seeing more of. We were able to break even in the turnover battle, so we starting to not be as turnover prone a team, and we did almost have a couple now. Kirk had 2 fumbles. One Bijan kicked out of bounds. And the other one, Bijan scooped up and ran forward for some yards. The defense, despite all of the faults that they had, like despite the poor tackling, despite the poor run defense, despite the lack of pass rush, the secondary looks great. Especially with what the safety's doing. I think they patrol in the middle of the field. I think they are doing a good job limiting explosive plays. I can't remember if the Chiefs had a huge play that game, but they pretty much nobody's been able to have largely explosive plays. I think, and I believe another positive we want to take from this game is that the offense, while they scored 17 points this game, which is the second lowest total they scored this year out of 3 games. So let's keep perspective there. But their improvements are how often they get in the red zone. So against the Steelers, they got in the red zone twice. They scored once, had a turnover. Against the Eagles, they got in the red zone 3 times. And in this game, the Falcons got in the red zone 4 times. Now, obviously, the last 2 we didn't score on was both of those were the times we were trying to score a touchdown. But the other 2 trips to the red zone did result in points. And we starting to see them. We starting to see them pick it up. So that's why I'm kind of harping on Zach so much in this video, because I think if Zach kind of figures out how we gonna score the points once we get in the red zone, then his progression as far as how we're moving the ball between the 20s, is going to be good enough, at least in the early part of the year, until everybody gets on the same page. But thank you so much for your time. We're gonna go ahead and put a button on this thing, put a bow on it, put a bow on this thing. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Also, please leave a comment if you're a Falcons fan, if you're a Chiefs fan, if you're a football fan. Love to hear from you. Love to hear what your thoughts are. Have a good one. Stay blessed, and you'll see me on the next one.